We call to member for Deakin.
Thanks very much, Mr Speaker. My question's to the Prime Minister. In the year ending 30 September 2023, net overseas migration was 548,800 people, which is an increase of 206,500, or a 60% increase from the previous year. Prime Minister, don't these figures just confirm that Labor's housing crisis is worsening, with overseas arrivals now running at 4 times the rate of new home builds?
Call to the Prime Minister.
Thanks very much, Mr Speaker. I join with the members of Parliament in welcoming our UK Minister here. I look forward to welcoming Minister Shapps to the Lodge later today, along with Minister Cameron, the Foreign Minister. Will be hosting the OCMIN delegation there this evening before they head to Adelaide for what will be a very important meeting. And I look forward to hearing the feedback about your trip to Osborne. And I was able to indeed host the High Commissioner just on Tuesday evening as well, to get a briefing about the relationship between Australia and the UK, of which the AUKUS arrangements and our defence relationship is so important. On the question, Mr Speaker, the fact is that migration is lower than it was anticipated to be. The population figures lower than what was anticipated to be under the former government.
The member for Deakin has asked his question.
The Business Council of Australia have said, in fact, new housing supply has been falling over the last half-decade. They said that in 2023, about the period in which those opposite were in government. Not the ACTU, the Business Council of Australia. I know that they're anti-business. A lot of the time these days, the modern Liberal Party have just kept moving further and further and further to the right. So they're the party now led by people like Senator Antic and others, rather than mainstream people.
The member for Deakin.
The member for Deakin's faction are running that mob in Melbourne into the ground, Mr Speaker, into the ground.
Order. The member for Deakin will leave the chamber under 94A. When I'm giving someone the call, that is not the time to add an insult to somebody. Trust me. The member for Wan is entitled to raise a point of order, and he should be heard in silence, and no interjections will occur while I hear this point of order. The member for Wan on a point of order.
Thanks, Speaker, and it goes to relevance, and you can't shake it off. Arrivals are running at 4 times the rate.
Resume your seat. The Minister for Home Affairs. Prime Minister was asked a question about migration. He's giving exact context about the figures with migration. I don't see him. It's virtually impossible to raise a point of order on relevance when he's directly answering the question which he was asked about, particularly on immigration, and now he's talking about housing. We simply aren't going to have people getting up and taking points of order because they don't like the answer. The Prime Minister has the call.
Thanks, Mr Speaker. I quoted the Peak organisation, but I'll quote another senior businesswoman, Susan Lloyd-Hurwitz, the former head of Mirvac, knows something about housing, the chair of the National Housing Supply and Affordability Council, who said this: housing and rental affordability is a real problem which has been decades in the making, fundamentally a housing supply issue. Now, the nation's housing ministers under the former government did not meet over 5 years. No meetings. None. None. By the end of their 9 years in office, at the end of the June quarter 2022, the number of the private dwellings completed had fallen to 41,000. The lowest quarterly number since 2014, the lowest. And the person who just got dismissed from the chamber had this to say: states and territories have the primary responsibility. There's a lot of work to be done by state and territories. He was the federal minister, couldn't meet